The Joker, Folie, Deux, but I'm just going to call it The Joker 2 going forward, was depressing and unenjoyable, but unlike its predecessor, which was also depressing and unlikable from my perspective, it was also very well made and engaging. Joker 2 is very bad and felt largely pointless, bloated, too long, slow, and very deconstructionist. Pointless, bloated, too long and slow? It's like it's a metaphor for constipation, especially when it finally comes out, because those explosions can certainly deconstruct your toilet. That's not to say there isn't any redeeming qualities about the film, because like constipation, it can be a great relief when it finally comes out, but very few people are feeling relieved with Joker 2. Instead, they feel like the toilet bowl as the movie proceeds to take a dump on all who love the first film. You see, this isn't actually a Joker film, but rather an Arthur Fleck film wholly constructed to deconstruct his Joker persona, one he ultimately rejects, which is going to subvert what most people will have come to see this film for. The Joker takes the primary character, Arthur Fleck, on a consistent enough arc, and the performances are near flawless. You can even find some depth in the story if you really look into it, but none of that improved my viewing experience, nor do I think it will help most people enjoy it fundamentally because of what it is, a film about Arthur Fleck, not the Joker. Who is the Joker and who is Arthur Fleck? Well, a large portion of this film explores this, but unlike what people want to see, him embracing his Joker persona, because frankly, Arthur Fleck as the Joker is a very interesting, dynamic, scary, and entertaining villain, instead, the film has him rejecting the Joker and choosing to only be Arthur Fleck. This is interesting because Arthur says in the film he is the Joker, but then he chooses not to be the Joker anymore. The Joker and Arthur were always the same character. The Joker's side was simply Arthur after he let himself loose and chose to fight back, acting with confidence, abandoned for concerns of consequences, and embracing the chaos of his world. And it is that Arthur, the Joker Arthur, that is the interesting part. We get some snippets of this Arthur in the film, and they're truly the most enjoyable parts of it, when we actually get to see the Joker. Like when he questions Mr. Puddles in the courtroom, but ultimately we don't get enough of this Arthur, and instead Arthur rejects that side of him, completely subverting what most people want out of the film and have been expecting, which is resulting in a very unsatisfied audience. It doesn't matter how well you make something if it's not what the audience wants or is expecting, and Joker 2 is arguably a very poorly made film, because if we go even further, failing so categorically at what the audience wants out of the film makes it a very bad film indeed. To me, this is one of the larger failures of Joker 2, and when combined with how out of place and unenjoyable most of the musical pieces are and the bloated nature and depressing tone, this film misses the mark in a big way. And let's not underplay that. This film was supposed to be about the Joker, but doesn't really have much of the Joker in it. That is astounding. How much more of a failure can you get? The character rejects the Joker identity and is killed in the end. Yes, it teases the birth of the Joker identity as a type of insanity or demonic possession that can be inherited by others, as shown by the laughing madman at the end, who supposedly becomes the new Joker, but that doesn't redeem this film from having the real Joker absent from most of its length. As I said, this is a film about Arthur Fleck, which is a far less interesting, dynamic character. Take away Joker from Arthur, then what's the point in watching an uninteresting, boring, depressing, mentally ill man on trial for murder? Some might say the point is because there's a meaningful message in this movie about the uninteresting, boring, depressing, mentally ill man on trial for murder. So, what is that point exactly? That you have to give in because the system will beat you down and abuse you anyway? So much of the message in Joker 1 is undone in the message of Joker 2, and it's not an uplifting message. I didn't find Joker 1's message uplifting, but there was a sense of empowerment in this character that was abused and beaten down, but fighting back and letting go. Letting go in a terrible way, the movie does not encourage people to act like the Joker, in spite of it pointing out injustices in society and what might happen to vulnerable people if the system forgets about them. Joker 2 has him give in to the system, a system which abuses him in the worst ways possible, ultimately getting him murdered. There might be a message about toxic fandom, that it was the Joker's fans that were driving him to be evil, and when not satisfying these toxic fans, they will betray you in the end, possibly leading to your death. Well, if that's the message, that's not a good message either, primarily because toxic fandom is a false label Hollywood gives to normal fans that dislike the slop they're throwing out, painting a false premise and a false conclusion. The thing is though, whatever message people might want to read into the Joker, ultimately, that message is meaningless because this is not an entertaining or enjoyable film, and it potentially makes it worse because most meanings you might be able to derive from Joker 2 are either depressing or vilifying to what reality is actually like. Remember, the primary purpose of entertainment is not to convey a message, it is to entertain, and if your message does not contribute to that goal, which sometimes it can if the message is prominent and uplifting, inspiring, or thought-provoking, but if that message detracts from the enjoyability of the film, then the film needs to make up for it in other aspects, which the Joker 2 most certainly does not. This ultimately does not make Joker 2 worth your time, as most people have already figured out. So as always, stay on watch.